Hello, this is Jan from the Fuzzy Duckling, bringing you part 3 of chapter 5. In our first part of chapter 5, we learned how to draw a single flower and a single leaf, and we also learned how to draw a pretty little fern. And then in the second part, we learned how to color our flower picture with Sharpies and colored pencils and a little bit of glitter glue. We did them 2 different colors just to show you how different they could be. We also learned how to do this background. So if you haven't watched these 2 videos, it would probably be a good idea to go back and watch these 2 videos before you do part 3, because this is where you learn how to actually do the drawing and the coloring. And then we take everything we've learned here and we put it into this picture with 5 flowers and loads of leaves and a pretty dark background and a different type of vase. And this looks complicated, but if you've learned what we practiced in these 2 parts, this picture won't be hard. It may take you a little longer because there's 5 flowers instead of 1, but it won't be hard. And isn't that pretty? So we're going to work on drawing this picture today. Again, I say if you haven't looked at part 1 and 2, you might want to go do that now before you start on this picture, because we'll be going through some of this a lot faster than we did in these 2 pictures. Okay, what you will need is, of course, a good piece of paper. Now you need to decide what your end goal is. Are you going to color this with Sharpies and colored pencils or watercolor paints, or are you just going to leave this as a pencil drawing? Now if it's just going to be a pencil drawing, you can use any kind of paper you want. You could use copy paper, printer paper, good old sketchbook paper, or you can use the better papers like mixed media. If you think you want to color this with markers or watercolor paints or even acrylics, you'll want to use something at least as heavy as mixed media paper. So you'll need your piece of paper. For now, you'll need a pencil and an eraser. If you decide to color this, then you'll need whatever media you decide to use to color it. And there's one other thing I use to do this, but let's bring this back so I can show you. I think earlier in one of our other videos, 1 or 2, I mentioned that I'd used this big round lid. And you see what I used it for? I used it to draw the bowl my flowers are going to be in. See how that fits right over that? And then I also used a smaller lid to show the space where each of my flowers were going to go. Now, some of you may feel like this is cheating, but I don't think so. It's just using the tools you have on hand the best way you can. Now, you can do all this freehand, or you can draw your circles with your compass, or you can use something else to trace around. But don't feel bad about using this type of thing to make your picture. You're just using your tools and making the best of them. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to move this out of the way, or let's see if I can get it here where you can see both pictures. Well, you can see most of it. Maybe I can go a little farther that way. All right, let's make our bowl first. Now, if you can tell, it's kind of hard on camera, I think. There's a dark brown table here. It's a little bit hard to see it with the black background, but this bowl is sitting on a table. So we're going to put this about here, and we're kind of thinking in our mind our table is about right here. And I'm going to lightly draw around it. Now, you draw as light as you can. I'm going to draw a bit darker so that my lines show up on the camera and you can see them. So that's going to be my bowl. And the next thing I want to put in is my table line. Now you could freehand this and just draw across there. That wouldn't be hard at all. You can use a regular ruler. Now I like to use my T-square. And now to do this, I'm going to have to move things over. Have you used a T-square? I love this T-square. And they're not expensive. If you just go buy a plastic one, they're usually at stores like Staples, craft stores. And I can line it up right along the edge of my paper there. And I know everything I draw across here will be straight. So I'm thinking my table edge will be about here. There we go. So now I'm going to just draw across. I'm not going to cross the circle because we won't see the edge of the table through our bowl. There we go. Now we have our bowl and our table edge. See if I can get this all back here for you so you can see most of it. Now we are going to draw some circles. Now those circles, they don't look like flowers, do they? They just look like circles. But what these are going to do are they are going to reserve a space for me to draw my flower in. Have you ever gone to a concert or a movie or whatever and you want to go somewhere, maybe in another room for a minute, and you want to reserve that space so you leave your jacket there or your purse there or something there to reserve the space for you so nobody else comes in and sits down there? That's what we're going to do with these circles. They're going to reserve a space for a flower. So the first one we're going to reserve space for is going to be this middle flower right here. This is the flower that will be closest to us as we stand and look at our flower arrangement. Now think about it. A flower arrangement is kind of circular. It's like a cylinder that's standing up here with flowers all around it. And the flower that's in the middle in front of you usually is the closest to you. And then you'll see other flowers around that will be a little farther away from you as they go around the side or over the top or under the bottom. So usually the closest flower will be the one right in the center. So we're going to reserve the center flower space right here. In fact, I'm going to put it in the center. You don't have to. You can put your flower a little over if you want. But just for this one, I'm going to set this flower just about in the center. So there's reserved flower space. And you definitely will be erasing these lines. So be sure and keep these flower lines as light as you can. It makes it a little easier to erase. So now I'm going to put this flower in, which sits right over here. And it comes a little bit over my bowl. And I think that will be good. In fact, it either comes, well, it'll go behind that front flower a little bit. Let's move it a little bit like this. There we go. Don't worry if you're overlapping your circles. We will take care of those in a little bit. And now we have a flower that's down here, definitely in front of part of the bowl and to the left. Does that look about right? Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Let's put that one here. Remember, we're just reserving flower spaces. And now let's put the one up here. Now we definitely have this one behind this middle flower. Do you see? It's a little farther away. So it's behind the petal of that flower. Now, what I'm going to do, though, when I draw this, I'm going to draw the whole circle space. But we'll take care of the overlapping lines in a little while. Because this way we can see if we like the balance of our arrangement, if it feels good to us. And one more flower up here in the left-hand corner. You see that flower right there? Let's put that up here. He's kind of wanting to fly high and go in the sky. There we go. You see now, when you look at this, do you feel kind of a sense of balance? Does it look good to you? Is there a flower circle that seems off? If it is, this is a good time to change it. If it just doesn't feel good to you, you might need to move it a little bit to the right or the left. You can even put more flowers in if you want. I suggest you do it the first time this way. And then try another one where you put some little flowers in that are different. Wouldn't that be neat? or a different amount of flowers, or all kinds of different flowers. Just reserve some spots for flowers all over. If I wanted a little flower here, I'd reserve a little spot right there to put a flower in. But let's just stay with the 5 flowers this time. Give you some practice. Now, let's look at it. We said earlier that this was supposed to be our very front flower that was closest to us. So we don't want anything coming in front of this flower. But when I drew this, we overlapped. And this flower should be behind this flower. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make this part disappear. Because it shouldn't show if it's behind a flower, should it? There we go. Now it looks like this is behind, doesn't it? And the same for this one. This one is supposed to be behind this one. We're going to make that little line disappear. Now it looks like this flower is closest to us, doesn't it? This one's a little farther away. This one's a little farther away. Now, this needs a little bit of work. This flower here, do you think it goes in front of that bowl or behind it? Be kind of weird to have it behind it, wouldn't it? It goes in front of the bowl. So in that case, part of this bowl has to disappear because it's behind that flower. There we go. See, now we have that flower. It's behind this one, but in front of the bowl. Now, these are things you'll have to decide when you put your own flowers in. What ones are in front and what ones are behind. This one is in front of the bowl, just like this one was. So we need to erase this bowl line here. There we go. Now, I think we have it settled here. What flowers are behind and what flowers are in front. So at this point, clean up my space a little bit. At this point, let's do a little more work on these flowers, okay? Now this is going to seem really weird, but this is what I want you to do. I want you to draw a straight line that divides our flowers in half. But let's start on this one. And it doesn't have to be straight up and down. You can put this line anywhere. I'm going to put it right here. Now, if you're not exact, don't worry about it. It will look fine because flowers aren't really exact. If you go outdoors and examine a flower, you'll find out they aren't exactly alike. They may not be exactly the same size. There's differences. So it's okay if there's differences in your flower. And then come along and divide it again. And see, I'm a little high there, but it will be fine. It won't hurt a thing. What this did, it reserved 4 spaces for 4 petals. Now, I haven't drawn the petals yet, but now there is space there to draw those petals when I come back and draw them. And we're going to do that on every one of our flowers. Now, this first line where it came at this angle, I like to do a little different angle every time I put a line in a different flower. Because if you have flowers in a vase or a bowl like this, they won't all be at the same angle. They'll be at different angles. So I'm going to make this one like that. I'm going to move this over a little bit so I can move my paper around. Okay, let's do our cross piece here. See that? And I'll do one here. Now, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and draw clear across this, even though this is behind that one, because I need to know exactly kind of where things go there. All right, and one here. And let's do it like this. I should be drawing my lines in a better form in one straight line. Sometimes when I'm thinking, I don't always do things the best way. like that. See how much of a better line I drew by doing it that way? There we go. Now we have all those flowers kind of pinwheeled around there. Get down here better in camera. Now we are going to go ahead and draw the outline of our petals and our centers. Let's put the center in first, and by center I mean this circle that's right in the middle of your flower. So let's start here and just draw a circle where those lines cross. There's the center of your flower. We're going to do that in every one. Don't worry if they're not exactly alike. Flowers will be different sizes, so they all won't be the same size in real life either. There's our flower centers. Okay, now let's put some petal outlines in here. This looks hard, but it's not. Let's do one right here. What we want to do is start at the center where this circle is, come up one of those side lines there, curl around, and make a dip. It's like you're drawing an upside down heart at this stage. Let's do the same thing here and let it meet in the middle. Now I'll turn it around here and let you see it. Notice how that, now it looks like a very crooked heart on this one, doesn't it? We'll straighten it out a little bit here. And then it goes back up again. See the heart shape? There we go. And we're going to draw that for every petal. We come along the line, curve in about halfway, come up on this side, and curve in and meet it. There's another petal. See how that worked? And these sections may not all be the same size. Again, you don't really have to worry about it. Here we come. Let's do this. And there's the petals on our first center flower. So let's go through and put petals on the rest of our flowers. Now I will speed this up a little bit so it doesn't take so long to watch me do this. And see, the reason I left this line right here was so I could follow it lightly here to see where this petal should come down. Now that will get erased eventually. There we are. There's all of our petals in all 5 flowers. Now I think we're going to take a little bit of time and clean up our lines. Let's erase all the lines that aren't part of either our bowl here, our table lines, or our flower lines. So first off, let's go clean up these centers. Now if you have a fat eraser like mine, quite often I get lines I don't really mean to get, but we'll go over those again with our pencil. Notice that. Let's just clean up all these lines that we don't want now. Sometimes we erase just about as much as we draw, and that's okay. Erasers are very important drawing tools. Now, we want to erase all these extra lines that we drew, our circles that reserved our space, and our lines that reserved our petal space. So just come in and get those erased and cleaned up. Now, I'm going to speed the video up here again so you don't have to watch me do all of this erasing. Okay, there. I've cleaned up most of them. Now I didn't get everything. These can be picked up as we go along. And if we ink this, you know we have another big time when we erase and clean things up. Now, obviously, I kind of erased some of my good lines. So I'm going to go back over my lines and be sure they're in here nice and strong. These ones that I know I want to keep, and they're where I want them. This would be a good time to fix anything I want to change on my flowers. There we go. Now, don't worry too much about your bowl right now, because we're going to add some leaves down here, and then we'll erase if we need to. Let's do a little more work on our flowers. Let us add this line to our flowers. It's just like doing another line that's just like the top line, only a little farther. See, like this? It's like now we're making a small heart instead of a big heart. Just like that. And don't worry, it doesn't have to be exactly like the top of the petal. It just kind of follows it along there. See how that dresses up your flower? Isn't that neat? So let's go ahead and do those to all of our flowers. Our flowers are really starting to look neat. Now we have all those lines in. Do you notice on the center of our flowers we have this little line that comes out? It's kind of a center vein or a little dent in the middle of our petal. Let's go put those in. Now start at the center and just come up towards the point of this, but don't go all the way. Just like that. These are very easy to make. Now, for most of us, when we draw like this, it's easiest if we can move our paper around. So, whoops, now I made a mistake there. I'm talking and working, and I don't always do that well. What they call a one-track mind. If I'm opening my mouth, I don't always do so well with what I'm doing. But feel free to move your paper around till it's at the best angle for you to draw the line that you want to draw. That's perfectly okay. It's okay, too, if you don't. However you feel comfortable. Hey, isn't that looking good? Now, let's decide about the center of our flowers. In this one, I colored the whole center black. And then I used little dots of glitter glue and dotted the center. That's one thing you could do. Another thing you can do is just take some color of Sharpie or colored pencils or whatever and just color it in whatever color you want, whether it's yellow or red or blue. Just color that in solidly. Another thing I like to do, and I think we'll do that on this one, is I like to have some little circles around the edge of my center. Let's get that dot in there good. And it would be something like this. Now, do you see that well? How there's little circles here? I'm just going to keep going around till we have the whole outer edge covered in circles. See how that dresses that up? And then I think what you could do is you could color all this and these little spots around the circles, any color you want, black, yellow, or whatever, and then color these a different color, or fill them in with glitter glue. Now I'm going to finish putting those in here. We can speed this up probably so it doesn't take so long. There, now we have all of our centers finished. That is pretty much all we do to our flowers. We'll need to clean up our outlines a little bit. So I think it's time that we put our leaves in. And I'll be honest, putting these leaves in to me is the hardest part. Fitting them in and knowing which ones come in front, which ones going back. Now, there are two ways to do this, and I'll show you both ways here very quickly. You can freehand these in if you want. You can just come out like this. And there's a leaf right there, and we'll do a little center vein. You could do all of your leaves that way if you want. Now, if you feel uncomfortable drawing these leaves in, there's another way you can do it. With this one, I used a template that I had made. I cut out a little leaf shape. Get it here. And I just traced it. Now, I drew this shape just freehand, like we did here. Cut it out, and then just drew around it over and over again to make my leaves. And I would suggest, instead of making it out of paper, let's show you a way to do it here. I have a cardboard one here that works real well, but actually I think I made it a little short. So let's make a new one anyway. Show you how to do that. Get you a piece of cardboard, and this just came off of a cereal box. And you can get a lot of good cardboard from cereal boxes. So if you eat cereal, save all your empty cereal boxes, cut those big fronts out, and if it's a big box, even some of the sides, and save it to use in your art. So I'm going to make a bigger leaf here than what I made a while ago. I'm just going to freehand it, and now you see leaves are kind of hearts too. Now look at this. It's kind of a different shaped heart, but a heart nevertheless. And that's all we have to do, and we need to cut this out. So you will need a pair of scissors for this if you decide to go this route. But I think we all have scissors in our house. I try very hard to keep these projects where we only use things that we either have around the house, or we can go to the store, a store like Walmart, and pick them up. I try not to use any expensive or fancy art supplies that you have to go to a specialty store or order online. You can get most of these things. In fact, I think everything in this project you could buy at Walmart. Now, you might have to buy a different brand, but you can still get them at a store like Walmart, because that's where I get a lot of mine. Walmart is close. My nearest craft store is several miles away, so I don't get to go very often. Now, what I want to do is where I think I should have leaves. It's okay if this goes over the flower. I just won't draw there. I'll draw over the part that's sticking out. Now, the thing is, remember, these will be in front, and as they go that way, they're going to be behind. So I think we'll start down here and put some of our front leaves in first. Like, I think it'd be nice to have, well, let me move this back over here where you can see it. See, we had one coming out here and one coming down here. And if you want to point that tip a different direction, just turn that around. So I'm going to just trace, and I'm sorry, I'm being a little clumsy here, around that leaf. There we go. There's a leaf. Now what I wanted to do was to have another one coming out here. And don't worry too much if it's in front of that leaf or behind it. We'll go in just like we did here, and we'll figure that out later. What we want to do is balance our leaves out. See how I've got two leaves here? We probably want another leaf coming out down about here. Now, the leaves on every one of my pictures comes out different. So it won't be just like the leaves in here. I like to have my leaves filling up my picture nicely, coming out the sides just like it would in a regular arrangement of flowers. How's that? Shall we put another little leaf showing down here? Let's make it come out at a little different angle, huh? How about that? Just gonna come. There we go. Let's come over here and add a leaf right here. Are you keeping up with me here? You know, if you get behind or I get ahead of you, just stop your video and catch up. I'm just going to keep adding leaves in here. Now, what's funny about this one, we don't want a leaf that big. What we probably will have is another leaf tucked in there like this to fill that spot up. Now, I quit making my centers, didn't I? Well, we'll go back in and put them. Although they do help you kind of see where your leaves are. So let's add some centers in there. And make these curvy and graceful. They don't need to be straight, sticky lines. Nature loves curves. We talked about that in another video. Man loves straight lines. When we build our buildings and our telephone poles and our railroad tracks, we make straight lines. But nature loves beautiful, graceful, curvy lines. See, I think we'll add a leaf here. If you can do these leaves, you've done the hardest part. I think fitting them in to make them look well is one of the hardest parts of this picture. Because you have so many little oddball spots to try to make it look natural and real. It is a little hard. I didn't mark the back part of that leaf, did I? Although we'll probably have another leaf hide that. I think we should put a leaf right in here. Let's turn it over and make it point a different way. Again, if you've done quite a bit of drawing, you'll probably just want to freehand these. And that is perfectly okay. But I think it's okay too if you want to use a template. Now right here, see these two leaves? I'm going to take that out because I'm going to figure this leaf probably covered that leaf. Now, the only spot we have with a lot of holes that has no leaves is right in here. And these are the kind of spots that are a little hard to fill. But we're just going to tuck some leaves right in there. How about like that? And we'll tuck another one right in. Well, let's see. Let's tuck one in right there. Now, you're going to have little oddball spaces in between these, which you will just color the same color as the leaves, and it'll blend right in. Now, what we need to do now is figure out which leaves are in front of the others. Towards the center will be closer to you. So this leaf is probably in front of any other leaf. Let me get my eraser here. So these lines here will disappear. Now this is entirely up to you. You decide which ones you want to be farther away and which ones you want closer. It's kind of neaten these up here. Help if I'd use the right end of my eraser, wouldn't it? Now, I've got 2 leaves here. Either one of these could be in front of the other. Which is the one that's closest to the center is probably the one in front. So we'll say this guy's in front. So yours will be a little different, because I imagine you won't put your leaves in the same spot. Now this one is coming in front of the vase and in front of my table line a little bit. So I need to erase the vase, or the bowl, a little bit, and let my leaf be in front there. There we go. And we have 2 leaves here. This one should be in front. This one is a little bit behind, so, oops. If this one's in front, we need to erase here. I about did it wrong. See there, that one's in front. This one is behind that leaf, but it's in front of this vase. So we need to erase that. Bowl or vase, whatever you want to call it. Now this should be in front of this because this leaf is closer to me, which it is. And this leaf would be in front of that leaf. So let's erase that a little bit. This leaf is towards the center, so it is sitting right in front of that leaf, but it's behind the center flower. This one's doing good. Now here we have 2 overlapping ones here. I think this leaf should be in front of that leaf. Now you might think differently, but you can decide when you do your flowers what ones you think are. There we go. Now let's start back here and go this way. This leaf's doing good. This leaf would be in front of that leaf. There we go. What do you think about that? Do you think we need any other little leaves anywhere here? If you want some more little tiny leaves poking out sides, you could have, say, maybe a little leaf coming out here. Just set that there. Now these leaves might be some that are in the back. So they're behind everything. These little ones coming out. And maybe one right in there. Clear from the back, and you just see a little bit of that leaf. It's behind everything. And I really am a little uncomfortable with this spot. Just a little tippy piece of leaf. There we go. How's it looking? You know, it's almost done. Now we need to finish our leaves. We need to put the rest of the veins on our leaves. So let's just start out with this one here in front. We're going to put all those little side veins in. Now we don't want to do straight lines. This would be straight lines. This is what we don't want to do. I mean, it looks like it looks okay, but that's not something you're going to see out in nature. Again, we said nature loves curves, gracefully curved lines. Let's get rid of those ugly straight lines. You want a curvy line. So, like, set your pencil down on that middle vein towards the bottom, like about here, about here. Come down and curve. Do you see how that was? Come down and curve. I'll bring this up close for you to see. Come down and curve. And we want to do that all up and down the leaf. Where there isn't a vein line that you can see, kind of imagine it in there, and then come down. And you know, nothing has to be exact here. See those vein lines? Really dresses the leaf up. And then come along to the other side and come out where it did on this side. Make this side match it. Down and curve. Down and curve. There we go. See, there we finished that flower. Isn't that neat? Now we need to do that to all of our leaves. So I'm going to finish this. I'll speed it up a little bit so it doesn't take forever for you to watch it. Okay, there's my center line. Down and curve. Alright, I think I found all my leaves. Now, on some of these little spots where we don't have leaf... Oh, I see one there I missed. It's easy to miss these. There would be leaves there, even though I haven't drawn them in. And if there's leaves there, there's vein lines. So you could go ahead and draw some vein lines in those empty spots, because there will be leaves, and where there's leaves, there will be vein lines. Okay, what do you think about that? Now we have our flowers and our leaves in. Now we have just a couple more things to do. We need to make the reflection on our bowl, and we may need to make our ferns. So, I'd say let's do our ferns next. Okay? Now our ferns, we need to make them nice and wavy. Now on this one, you see, I didn't cover up as much of my bowl as I did on this one. I mean, that's okay. It just will look different. But I'm going to come down through here and have a fern just kind of do that. You see that? Just a wavy line. And you don't have to worry about making that wavy line like mine. Let's just put a few pieces of fern sticking out at the sides of our flowers. Let's put one here. Then I always like to add that extra one. You could actually add 3. Here, I'll add 3 on this one to show you how you could do that. You could just add 3 little branches, because they will vary. Let's have one up here. And where do you think? Let's put one out here to this side. And maybe one coming out here. Let's make that one that's 3. And we've kind of got them coming out most places. Let's put one here. Now, that's the stem part of it. Now we need to add these little parts. I think these little parts maybe hold the seeds or something. And let me show you how right here. Just do like little upside down curvy V's. Little house tops. Little flying birds. Whatever you want to call them. I'll draw it lightly here. It's just like this. Or like a tent. See how that is? I don't know if you can see that. I'll have to erase that. We don't want to leave that there. That's what you're doing. Just a line of these along the stem. I'll leave those there for a minute, and then I'll show you how to put the little seeds on. Just like that. Again, you don't want to draw these perfectly straight. It's nature. It wants to be curvy. Now, on the ends of each one of these little, I'm not sure what you want to call them, sprangles, we're going to have a circle. And you see this? I'm going to show you on this. Just now, like a 6, come up and circle around and color it in. On the other side, it'll be like a backwards with 6. See? Just like that. Come along that sprangle and make a little seed. See how that works? Only here, there'll be a lot smaller. But they look pretty neat in your picture. Now, depending on how much fern you put in here, it may take you a little while. Now that you know how to do it, you just may want to make that little circle on the end as you're drawing your little V, inverted V shape. There we go. There's one I missed. Now, I'm going to give you a hint now. If you decide you're going to paint this, you're going to have to figure out with these what will show up over. Say if you painted this blue like we did here. I had to find something that will show up on top of the darker blue, or see if it'll show up in the light. Do you see how these showed up? For these, I used a metallic gel pen that is silver, and I was able to buy that at Walmart. You may have to buy a whole set of gel pens, but that's okay. They're fun to use in artwork. But be sure it has some metallic colors in them. Most of the sets I've seen have at least 4 metallics, and they usually have a silver and a gold and something else that's really pretty. But I would suggest before you paint that, get a scrap piece of paper out. I don't have my pens here right now, but whatever color that's going to be, whatever it is, color it in. And then experiment with different pens or paints to see what will cover that well. Because I'm not sure if you can see on here, but I made a big mistake on this when I did it. I used a paint pen that wasn't working very well, and it really messed my picture up. And then I had to try to clean that paint off, and then I used a metallic over it. But this doesn't show as good as this, where it was nice and clean. And if I had tried it on a piece of paper first, I wouldn't have had that problem. So it's always a good idea to try things out on a separate piece of paper before you do it on your good piece of artwork. Now I'm going to erase this here. I'm going to erase this and finish my ferns, and we'll speed that up, and I'll be right back. Alright, those are done. Now we need to put the reflection in our bowl here. These right here. And they'll just be a couple of little spots that come out, and they go along the curve of your bowl. And when you color these, you could color them, say you have a dark blue bowl. I actually used kind of a light blue sparkle in mine, but you could just use a light blue pencil, or you could use white. You could make a yellow bowl with a white reflection, whatever you would like to do. Now, basically, you are done with the drawing part. You will finish this a little different depending what you're going to do. Now, if you're going to make this just an art piece out of pencil, what you'll want to do next is go through and make all your lines nice and solid and clean. So you would start, let's say, with this flower and just kind of go over them again, make them nice and solid, no longer sketch lines. Try to do it neatly. And just clean it up. Be sure all the edges meet that should meet. Now see, I kind of made a mistake there. That's all right. We can sketch it over. And just go through and do that again to the whole picture. And be sure and erase any smudgy marks that might be there or lines that just don't belong there. Come along like see here and clean this up. And just do that to your whole picture and get it all cleaned up, and then you'll be done and you'll have your pencil drawing. Now we haven't gotten into shading, which is something that will have to be in a later video. But say if you want to, you could come along and color this in with lead and make those dark ends of your petals. Like that. Just keep going in tiny little circles and filling that in. Now, that's if you want to keep this a pencil drawing. A lot of you will want to color it in one way or the other, whether it's with color crayons. You can use markers. You can use colored pencils. You could use acrylic paints. Oh, you can color this in any way you want to if you used a good mixed media paper. If that's what you're going to do, you will want to ink it. And if you've been following our courses, you will have seen us inking just about every project we did. But in case you haven't and you don't want to go back and look, inking is just going over our lines with a good ink pen that won't smear. And I would suggest you try this on a scrap piece of paper with your pen. Draw some lines and then go over it with whatever you're going to use to color with to see if it smears it. Because it's very easy to smear these things, and then your picture does not look so good. And just carefully go over your lines. Now, if you do it a little different, but the line still looks okay, that's fine. Your ink line is your permanent line. Your pencil line is not permanent. Now, this takes a little bit of patience. But good art never gets done in a hurry. Enjoy the process of the art. Don't hurry through it. Just take your time and make good art. Now you see how those were inked. And then after I ink, be sure your ink's dry. Come in with your eraser and just erase right over everything. And if I had this finished, I would just erase this whole page. And it will clean everything up nicely and be ready for me to paint it or color it. Which would be your next stage, is to paint it or color it. Now, I'm not going to paint this online because this will probably take, if you do a good job, you may have to take 3 or 4 hours or more to paint this. But here again is your suggestion. This is what it would look like. First off, I colored everything with Sharpie pens. And then I took my colored pencil and I shadowed everything. And the other two sections of this, 1 and 2, will show you how to do this. And we shadowed the edges of the leaves. And then we added some glitter pen for these things. The backgrounds takes a while and takes some patience, but just use tiny little circles with your Sharpie all over. And again, we showed you that in the other video. So I hope you enjoyed this picture. And hey, upload some to the Fuzzy Duckling and we'll put it on our site for people to see. You can go to our Facebook page, and I need to put that link at the bottom too. Go to our Facebook page and upload your pictures and show it off. So Here's to happy painting, drawing, and just having fun with your art. Bye-bye for now.